welcome to today's webinar. I want to thank you all for joining us. And before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. We'll be limiting the Q&A to Zoom chat. So if any of the speakers can answer your questions in real time, we will certainly do that. And if not, we're recording the webinar, as I said, and we'll be sure to get back to you with any follow-up. I'm Julian Alssid. I'm Chief Marketplace Engagement Officer for Unmudl, which is the skills to job marketplace powered by America's community colleges. Unmudl makes it easy for learners to access courses and programs that lead directly to quality jobs. And our focus is on courses that will help someone get a good job or a better job and onto a career path. And employers use Unmudl to source talent and upgrade their workers. I'd like to introduce our panel today and welcome you all. We're very, very pleased today to have my colleague, Erica Barreiro, who is the Future of Work Strategist. Hey, Erica, for Central New Mexico Community College and a real key player in the build-out of the conceptualization and build-out of Unmudl. Erica will be co-hosting with me, so we'll play a little tag team on Q&A. Grace Whitaker. Hi, Grace, who's a business development representative for Orbita. Debbie Holzkamp. I'm bouncing from box to box here. Debbie is CEO and founder of Virtanza Career Pathways, and we'll be speaking to the work that she has done to actually build what we believe is a paradigm of the type of course we're offering through Unmudl. And then Samantha Fong, who is a brand partnerships manager with TikTok. Samantha, I should have invited my kids to be on the webinar since my daughters spend about half their lives producing for TikTok, but we'll save that for a post conversation. So Unmudl is designed for working learners. So people just, by that, really what we mean are people who don't have the time and the money to kind of spin their wheels and can use some direction about training that's going to help them advance their careers. And we want to begin the webinar with a learner story, but just a little bit of context first. According to the Sales Education Foundation, since this is our topic today, 50% of college graduates are going to have their first job in sales. It's kind of an incredible number. 80% of marketing majors are going to have their first jobs in sales, yet only 3% of colleges teach sales. Let me actually pull this down now so we can. Let me stop sharing. Where do I go to stop sharing? Stop sharing. So what we're, sorry, just trying to stop sharing. Are you all still seeing my screen? No.
Nope, you're all good.
Good. Just a little technical movement there. So what I'd like now is to turn to that first learner story and ask Grace as our first speaker, to talk a little bit about, your journey. Grace began when she was still in college, and it was the short-term sales course that she took with Ratanza that supercharged her sales career. And this course is being offered through Central New Mexico. So I'm going to ask Erica to kind of talk a bit about that in a bit. But Grace, can you speak to your experience, please?
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much, Julian, for your introduction. So like Julian mentioned, I am a recent graduate of University of the Pacific, and then I also am now working as a business development representative at Orbita. And then in October of 2020, I was a professional sales readiness student. And at this time, I was my senior year in college, so I really didn't know what I was going to be doing. I thought I would have a career in marketing since that was my major. And I was always intimidated by sales. When my peers or family members went into sales, I never thought that I had that natural sales ability. But after getting the encouragement from the Virtanza instructors and then taking the Chally assessment, where the Chally assessment really assesses your sales capabilities and then your natural skill set in sales. So it does some rankings on different personas. And the best thing about it is, where you may have ranked a little bit lower, you can really pinpoint those personas and work on your skill set throughout the course. So that's what I thought was really awesome. And then compared to my university courses and then the professional sales readiness course, like I said, I was taking my full stack of course load during this time. And so I was really comparing between the two. And I really enjoyed the collaborative learning environment that Virtanza offered. They were really well versed in the remote learning, whereas some of my university courses were still, getting their footing with the remote learning. But I feel like Virtanza does a great way of keeping the team collaborative, and everyone was excited to be there. So that was some of the differences that I saw between the two. And then going into where I am now after the course. So Virtanza's professional sales readiness course really allowed me to speak on that experience during interviews. So that helped with, going into the sales career. So not only did it help me in those interviews, it's really helped me in my role today. Thinking back on the course, we did different drip emails. So it was a 4 email cadence. And I really do that a lot in campaigns today. In my role. So thinking about messaging and going back to the Virtanza format of those emails, it's been really, really helpful. And then also the role plays, even just watching some of my colleagues or even in my own experience, thinking back on different role plays and how to, present a proposal or a slide deck has been very, very helpful. So that is now how I applied it to my career path today. But I also think that it can be applied to any career path. So if you have any interest in sales, you never know where you're going to be going with your career. So I think it's a great opportunity even for other majors. Like it was mentioned previously, 50% of university graduates go into sales. And I even see that with a lot of my peers and friends today. So I think this credential is a really great background to have after graduating and, at any point in your life. So that's all I have to say for today. And I appreciate everyone's time.
That's great, Grace. Can you speak a little bit more to how the training has how this sort of set you apart from peers? When we were talking and doing a little prep for this webinar, you mentioned that, and I found that really interesting because, I think so much of what we're focused on are what are those trainings that can kind of give you an edge? Can you chat a little bit about that? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So with interviews, especially talking about, the skill set and referencing the Chally assessment, which I know a lot of people, I never had heard of the Chally assessment. So I thought that was really awesome to be able to know these are the skills that I can capitalize on in, a role that I'm interested in. So I think that training helped. And then that really set me apart from others. Whereas a lot of sales jobs really want you to have that prior sales experience. So credentials like Virtanza's professional sales readiness course is really one that employers value. So I think that was one thing that set me apart from my peers.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. And I know before I turn it over to Erica, I know that you, Grace, have got to go do some work, and so at some point you're going to be cutting out to go sell. So thanks for being here. And when you drop, if anyone has any questions for you if anyone has any questions now, please type them for Grace before she leaves, which I think is pretty shortly, in about 5 minutes. But if not, we'll follow up with you. But thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and your story is a great one. And good luck.
Of course. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I'd like to turn it over to my co-host, Erica Barreiro. And as I said, Erica represents Central New Mexico Community College, which is one of the founding partner colleges of Unmudl. And Erica, I guess what I'd love to hear you riff on a little bit is, how you think about the role of Unmudl in workforce development and the courses we offer.
Yeah, so I'll connect Grace's story to a couple of the reasons that the sales training was selected as one of the courses that we offer, and also kind of what we've learned about working learners and their needs in navigating the education system. So for any in our audience that have not gone to unmudl.com, please do. And what you'll see is there is a collective of several community colleges, so that rather than having to go individually to different college websites to navigate, to find out what they offer, to figure out, if your local community college has sales training and you find out that they don't, where else can you go? You have this single kind of marketplace for workforce training offerings that that don't require you to navigate 7 different college processes in order to be part of. So one click, you can register for a course at one college, and then you can also even at the same time register for a course offered by another community college. And so I think part of what we're trying to do is reduce the way that learners often have to put a lot of time and energy into navigating and looking for the right courses for them in their learning journey. So you heard Grace's learning journey was, recent college graduate, or as she was getting ready to graduate, really was looking for something to give her a leg up from all of her peers who might be graduating at the same time looking for a job. And she decided she wanted to add skills to her degree. We also have folks, and I think we're going to hear a little bit more about this from Debbie and Samantha, who maybe are taking it and don't even have a degree yet, or aren't on that journey. And so what we're trying to do as colleges is really identify what are skills-based learning experiences that will enable completers of those courses to go out and get a job. And one of the great things about the Virtanza curriculum is that Debbie and her team really designed this in partnership with employers that gave them feedback about what kinds of skills sets were needed. They have developed and maintained relationships with employers in the areas of sales. So they're keeping their content relevant, every year based on things that are happening in the marketplace. They are tracking what kinds of graduation, upon completing the course, what types of job placement results they have, so that we're able to assure learners, hey, if you take this particular course, right now, X percentage of completers are able to get a related sales job and or advance in their career in their field. So those are a few of the elements that we're kind of looking for as we think about what is it that we should offer on this marketplace. It's that employer connection, it's relevant skills that lead to good paying, in-demand jobs. And also we're looking for courses that are designed in a way that it's a great learning experience and particularly helps support many of the learners that we have who are working full-time. And so Debbie will talk a little bit more about that as she tells us a little bit more about her program. So I'm gonna turn to Debbie and say, Debbie, can you talk a little bit more about the architecture of the program, how you've structured it,
Yep.
add on anything about why it's relevant, why do employers like it, why do students like it? And then we can talk a little bit more about the demand for sales professionals right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Erica. And hi, everyone. I'm Debbie Holzkamp. I'm the CEO and founder of Ratanza, and we are the best friends of community colleges and in the university system, and we're all about the student learner. So let me tell you a little bit about the architecture and the background and how this has all come to be and why it works. In my background for 3 decades, I managed $1 billion in sales across sales teams, and I always was responsible for hiring thousands of people. And I could never find enough qualified candidates. But yet I knew that if there was a way to help prepare learners, all kinds of learners from every part of, anywhere, anytime, any place, that we could help learners get the skills and into a really good paying job that would pay middle income and way above. I mean, I have friends that are and colleagues and business partners that are in the business of sales for their lifetime, making millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it just depends. But how did we architect this? So it comes with a lot of experience in my background. I'm actually an author and a publisher, and I've created all kinds of training formats. But what we did was we created a course program that would help people first identify their natural fit to all different kinds of sales roles. You heard a little bit about the Challey sales assessment. Well, everybody is different. Everybody comes with a different DNA. And believe it or not, we all possess some type of sales skill in our background, in our DNA. And there's 18 different kinds of roles that we assess for. You may be more of a business developer. You may be more of an account manager. You may be more of a problem solver. You may want to just take control and do it all and do it all in a really big way. So the first thing that we help people do is explore what is their natural fit, what are their natural skill sets. And we use Challey, which has been in business for over 40 years, working with Fortune 500s. They've got all kinds of profiles, and it's competency skill based. It's not personality based, it's competency skill based. Some people say, you know what, I'm an introvert, I can't go into sales. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter. You have some skills. So we help you explore what that is, what the fits are, and then we've architected the sales process in a way that fits for every type of industry. So we've built case studies after case studies with vice presidents and senior vice presidents and CEOs of companies, where you actually learn a 4-step sales process. And depending on your profile and where you want to go with what your fit is and how you reflect on that, we actually align you with certain kinds of case studies. So you can realize your true potential through the program. And then we teach you all the tools. You heard from Grace, prospecting. You heard from Grace, outreach communication, drip email campaigns. You use that in marketing, but you also use that in sales. You have to build relationships with people, and especially in this digital world. So we're going to teach you the tools and the techniques and the competencies there to be confident in your outreach communication, to actually set appointments, build relationships, and take people through a case process. The other skill sets in this is that you learn how to tell a story, how to put a persuasive story together that fit the needs of the customer. So persuasion and negotiation and getting to the customer commitment and having an ongoing relationship and problem solving. All of those are skills that you learn in this program. And then it's all always about you. So you have a certain idea in your mind as to how much income you want to make, or what you want to strive for. Maybe you have to take care of a family, or maybe you're building to get into that next level of career pathway, or maybe whatever it is. We teach you how to sales plan and forecast and build how you want to build your pathway. So sales planning and forecasting and using CRM techniques, all of those things are important, and those are all competencies that you learn in this class. So we've architected it from an employer standpoint, and then we've gotten academia involved. We've had academia vet every single one of our programs and establish credit hours. So actually, when you take this program, you can earn credit hours and you can transcript it to whatever you're trying to earn. Maybe it's an associate's degree, maybe it's a 4-year degree, maybe it's graduate level studies, maybe whatever it is, we can help you then also apply that towards where you want to head. So, and then at the very end, I'm sure Samantha's going to talk about this, but when you get those skills, you're sought after before you even graduate. Because if I remember, Samantha was already getting picked before she even graduated because she invested in herself and she got the skills. And I'm sure she's soaring from here. I'd love to hear her latest story, but I can't wait to hear more. So there you have it. Let me know questions, but I think I'm describing the true pathway.
Oh, sorry, Julian. I was gonna ask
please.
one question, and then I have more that I'll save until after everybody else speaks. But Debbie, as you look at the kind of the shifts in terms of the impact of digital transformation on the role of sales, what has been a couple of kind of major elements that you've made sure to incorporate in your curriculum to address digital transformation and how it relates to sales?
Yes. Well, first of all, we started this program remote and distance learning. So we actually, I think, are a pioneer in this. Back in 5-6 years ago, and working with academia on how to position all the learning modalities in a digital environment. So how we collaborate, how we use Zoom, how we use collaboration rooms. We made sure that we incorporated the technology and the advancement of that technology in a way that would serve our learner population and all the employers. We have incorporated Salesforce CRM in a really big way. That's a tool and technology that everybody needs to learn, whether it be Salesforce or HubSpot or anyone in between. You're going to learn how to build a pipeline of customers in a technology platform that you can speak to on a regular basis. We have incorporated the latest outreach technology tools, Groove.co. They're well on their way. Some Google founders who built incredible outreach communication tools that fit right with Salesforce, and they're growing faster than anybody else that I know, but the tools are very easy to use. Again, you're communicating with people in an email, in a text environment, probably in a TikTok environment, in a Instagram environment, in a LinkedIn environment. You're using all the social media, all the tools, all the techniques, and you're still doing voicemail and you're still having conversations. So I actually think all the tools and techniques make it easier now for us to build relationships. So we've incorporated all of those things, and I think we were early in incorporating all of those things. So really, you learn how to present through your tools online. You learn how to use outreach communication tools to get people's attention and set appointments. You learn how to use appointment setting tools. You learn how to build ongoing live conversations in remote settings on a regular basis. You learn how to do group presentations in remote settings. So all of those things have been incorporated into all of our programs.
It sounds like I may need to take your course, Debbie.
I was going to just say the same thing, Erica. So, Debbie, it's so many lights are going off for questions for me as well. But so thank you. This is a great, setting the stage here. We'll definitely come back to you. I'm sure I can see them. I know, Erica, you too said they were popping. I do want to pull Samantha into the conversation, and what, just as a preamble, as Erica said, Unmudl's approach is really about, again, how do we target very specific kinds of short-term training programs that are relevant to learners at different parts of their career. And so, of course, Grace was really early on, and Samantha is a little further along in her career. So compared to me, still the baby beginning, but definitely further along. But I'd love, Samantha, to hear a little bit about your journey. How did you end up in the course? What's it done for you, kind of from a learning perspective, but also professionally? And of course, because I do have to bring this back to my kids, what do you do for TikTok?
Yeah, I can answer the last question first. So I'm a brand partnerships manager at TikTok now, which means the ads that you or your children see, I sell those to those companies. So right now I'm in our like mid-market level clients working with people who advertise on Facebook, Instagram, and trying to convert them to advertise on TikTok and showcase their business that way. So yeah, that's what I do now. But before I took the Virtanza course, so prior to that, I went to undergrad for exercise science and I did corporate health for about 3 years after I graduated. I did that alongside of like kind of consulting for a startup company. People like someone poached me because they were like, you're good at, networking, meeting different people. And I would like for you to be that person for me because you like sports. A lot of investors are primarily male. Do you mind being that person? So I did it, met different people, and then worked alongside a mentor who kind of like was the one that spearheaded me into getting into tech sales. So after the personal training career that I had, I ended up switching to nonprofit because I wanted to do something a little bit more meaningful, which entailed a lot of like fundraising experience, again, networking, relationship building, all the different kind of things that you see in a sales career. And so when the pandemic happened, I was laid off from my job and didn't really know like what to do, kind of figure out like if there was a time to like make a career change, this was the time to do it. And that same mentor kind of brought up like, I think you should look into tech sales, like just see what you think. I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but I think your skill set really fits this kind of role. I would just look into it. So I joined this site called Lunch Club, and it's kind of like a networking website where you meet different professionals. They're either like CEOs, other creatives, just depending. And it's just like a virtual lunch to meet with these people and like gauge their interests, how they can help you, how you can help them. And so that's when I met a tech startup. His name is Samir, and he had actually took the class. And so he brought it up and like hired me on to be like basically a sales development representative position. And then halfway through me like freelancing and working for him, he asked if this is something I was interested in. And at that point, I knew like I had zero sales experience. I knew I had the skills, but I knew there were like technical things that I probably could learn and like benefit from. So I joined the class, and towards the end of the class, I got my first job offer. I was working for House at the time, doing account management. And when I saw that TikTok was opening, I kind of jumped ship. It was like 5 months into my other sales career. And that's when I realized they were hiring. I could see myself working there. I applied for the role. And the big thing that actually came up and how I kind of realized the class like really helped me and steered me along was my person who made the HR who made the offer to me told me, you asked a lot of questions during your pitch. Where did you get those questions? And I was like, oh, like I actually took a sales class, like a few months ago. It's called this Ratanza course. And they kind of show you like different sales methods and how you should continue like connect with your client. And he's like, yeah, well, that's great. Like, that's why we want to make you the offer, because we've had top sales execs from Google and Facebook who pitch to us and like do their presentation as like a mock presentation. And they don't even ask questions, and we don't make them an offer. Like even people like on paper, like who look like they should be able to do this job well, like we don't give them an offer, but we want to take a chance on you. So I've been there for about 3 months now, and that is my long-winded journey to sales.
Wow, great. It's funny. I was just thinking as Grace and Debbie and you talk, it's like, wow, you're all very compelling speakers. You're probably very good. I'm sure you're all amazingly good salespeople. It is a great story though, incredible. And one thing I was interested in jumping back to, I know Erica, I don't know if you want to come next, but there was one point that I just wanted to get out of my head before, if you don't mind, with Debbie, which is we agreed we were going to go back and forth. So here I am already breaking the rules. I'm not a very good rule follower. But Debbie, you mentioned, so Unmudl we describe as a skills to jobs marketplace. And a critical element of that is the crosswalk between getting people skills, but also getting them credentials and obviously to a job. But I loved hearing, I love that you've designed kind of looking, based on a competency model. And I'm really interested in, and I know folks in the audience are kind of in this realm. We have folks who are really interested in the kind of link between the sort of skills training and the academic side, because you talked about like kind of working this through with the academics. How can you unpack a little bit further? How do you do that?
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that Samantha will appreciate this because in her class, there's rigor. And what I mean by rigor is that there are rubrics. So when you actually go through an assignment, and they're all sales related assignments. So Samantha did this when she had to develop her needs assessment strategy for one of the clients and ask all the questions and get all the information and actually take the customer to the next step of the next appointment. The rigor and the rubric behind it, she's actually graded on, did she cover and get all the information? Did she introduce herself? Did she strategically sum up the conversation? Did she get to the next step with the customer? All of those parts are in a rubric, a grade. And so you're actually learning the techniques. You're learning first the theory of it all. What are you trying to do? And then you're learning the applications. And then you're demonstrating, you're writing it and you're demonstrating it. So when you write it and then you demonstrate it, you're graded on both those parts. And there are certain parts that you have to show that you actually know how to do. And there are certain parts you have to demonstrate that you know how, and then you're graded on it. And the grade is based on an academic environment grade. So you're actually learning, that's competency-based learning. That right there is needs assessment strategy. That's identifying needs of a customer. And so I'm so glad to hear you tell that story, Samantha. I never heard it before, but in your way, but I think that's so true, on point. It's that inquisitiveness, that strategic questioning, that logical way of taking a customer through to identify what they really need solved, and then you're going to solve it for them. There's a rubric coming from academia, and there's a experience in industry coming from the employer. So you combine both of those things.
Yeah. That's great.
And I'll also share one of the goals of Unmudl, as well as, you know, C&M, in looking for what we want to offer to students, as we talked about, is that opportunity to get credit for learning where it's relevant for the learning journey. So when we first looked, someone had asked about, like, what's the relationship with the colleges and Virtanza. The relationship was that actually Unmudl introduced me to Debbie. And so I reached out and said, hey, tell me more about this curriculum that you've developed. And because she has amazing sales skills, she sold me on this, the relevance of this curriculum to our students. And so we decided to work with Debbie to offer, so that C&M could offer this curriculum through Unmudl. We offer it as non-credit, but we have worked with our academic side of the house to articulate it into credit. So when, and this is what Debbie's done with a number of institutions that she was talking about. Yes. So when students complete this work that has clearly defined competencies and skills associated with it, an institution like C&M can say, well, if you need it because you're working on an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, we have an easy way for you to actually earn credit at our institution. And so that's that relationship. And I think we know that learners start at different places. We have some learners that start in a degree or certificate program that is offered by C&M, but we have other learners that may not think that college is the place for them, or are really looking for that short-term training that just gets them right into a job, and that's what their focus is. Yes. And so non-degree workforce training, non-credit, whatever you want to label it, those training opportunities that allow for people to either start there and or maybe end there in terms of their learning career and journey in ways that allows it to complement what other types of learnings they have is really important to the ecosystem that we're trying to create with Unmudl.
Yeah, and I want to just add one more thing too, on the academic side. Again, back to all that whole question. I think because there's been this academic vetting and employer involvement, when a learner takes a short-term certificate program, it's now credentialed with the university and the college, and that actually is important to the employer too. There's almost, I don't know, almost a prejudice behind the scenes. I don't know, a preconceived, like we're built that way, but it's meaningful. It's a natural, meaningful, oh my gosh, the brand means something. So I think it helps the learner get prioritized in the hiring decision.
And Samantha, I know we heard a little bit from Grace about what she felt she took away from the course that gave her an edge up of maybe her peers that were competing for similar jobs. Like, what do you think you really learned that maybe other learners and students kind of taking a traditional path weren't as good as you because you had this amazing learning experience?
I honestly, for me, like, it taught me that all the skills that I had initially, like innately on my own, like I had them the whole time, and I could have just like escalated them with this course. Because I even told like my teacher Bernice, like in the class, that the reason why I was so hesitant to even like join sales and like think it was a career for me is because I equated it to like the sleazy car salesman. Like I've seen it like so often, like even in other tech companies where the people are just here to make a dollar. It's transactional. It's not relationship driven. And so the biggest takeaway was like, it is relationship driven. Like it's all dependent on the sales, like the salesperson that's talking to them. And you basically like make your own book of business. And so that was like, that's when like the lights started clicking and everything started like making sense. And I was like, okay, great. Like this is a career that I see myself doing like long term and something that I want to leverage and continue to do.
And I'm curious, Samantha, and then I'm going to ask you to think about the question too, Debbie. But as you think about, so what if, I don't want a career in sales?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are the skills? Do you think there are skills that are taught in this course that might be relevant for anyone? Or for certain types of other careers that people are looking at that isn't necessarily, in that sales category?
Yeah, that's really funny you say that, because originally I took this class like not even to be like a salesperson. I wanted to be someone like behind the scenes where they're like all relationship driven, not even the account manager. And so I think this class also gives you that. It kind of like with the pitching and like building that relationship and doing like the mock presentation that Debbie touched on, like those rubrics, I think those give you like different skill sets. So it's kind of like relationship like driving, also like taking initiative, and like breaks you like out of your comfort zone. So easily this, whether you want to be a salesperson, you can be the client success manager, you can even be like someone that I did in nonprofit where you're like the fundraising development manager where you're like planning events. I think easily like these skills can transfer, and it's not just one-sided where after you graduate, you have to go back into like technical sales.
Right. Those are great examples. Debbie, what would you add to that?
Oh my gosh, I think that anybody who has to work in a team environment where you want to present your ideas and you want to listen to what everybody else's idea is, I think these skills are really for everyone. And to be honest, when I really have been, this has been my dream forever, is that to me, sales ought to be fundamental skills for everybody. Whether you actually are in an actual titled sales role or a sales executive role or a chief revenue officer, knowing how to ask questions, how to collaborate, how to present, how to understand different points of view, and then how to conclude all of that, you learn all of those skills right here.
So I have a question, which I guess, I don't know, maybe it's a summative question or not, but I was just kind of glancing at the first slide and the title of the presentation. measuring success in sales training. And we've kind of danced all around it in all those different ways, but I'm sort of curious here from all of you, but maybe starting with you, Debbie, like, so how do you do it? So what should we be, what do you see? If you had to kind of give us the outline form, what is it?
Be a little bit more explicit when you say outline. I'm not
sure. Well, go into whatever depth you want, but I mean, lay out for us. How do we measure success in sales training? I've heard you talk about learners. I've heard you talk about employers. I've heard you talk about credentials. I've heard you talk about a lot of things I think could factor into that. I'd like to kind of lay it all out in one logical argument.
Well, I think, first of all, it's about the learner experience. I think the learner has to tell us that this fit their expectations, that this overachieved their expectations, and we take that so very seriously. We're asking and surveying learners right from the beginning, and then we build an ongoing relationship with them because we want to make sure we are providing the best outcomes for them. So just want to stick with them for the moment. The making sure they graduate, making sure they get sought after, making sure that they're prepared, making sure that they have support and a network. And then we're tracking learners and jobs. And 97% of learners who have gone through our program are in jobs. And so, and then we're tracking promotions. Like when we hear that Samantha Fong all of a sudden is working for the next one, we're like this. All of us are like this, right? So that is measuring success. That's making sure we're doing the very best job. We're also tapping into employers, and we're asking employers regularly. And I think you're gonna see us do even more of that into the future too, as we continue to scale up and really help learners. So for us, that's how we measure.
Yeah, that's great, and that's very compelling. Does audience members and anyone else here, I mean, any more questions or comments you'd like to toss out? I think we're probably going to wrap up pretty soon. I think it's been a very rich discussion. We've covered some really great ground, but would love to, one last call. How long is the course?
The course is 7 weeks. It's twice a night. It's twice a week. It's in the evenings. And so it's designed for anybody to participate, really, whether they're working full-time, part-time, or they've got family obligations or whatever their situation is.
That's great.
And I wanted to add too that one thing that we really liked about the course design is that even though it's online, it's not all asynchronous. And what I mean by asynchronous is like that interaction where you never are live with your peers and the instructor. And so this is designed in a way that you actually get to show up in a virtual classroom and interact in small groups with your peers, get ideas, learn from them, as well as that live interaction with an instructor. And we know that that structure is really important for a lot of learners to be successful in learning. For any of you that have ever done MOOCs where there's no live interaction, you probably have had an experience similar to mine where it's really hard to stay motivated and on track with your deadlines and all of that kind of thing. So I just think that's a really fabulous element of the design of why this program is successful.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible. And I guess Samantha, as someone who's been through the course, sure, you had to go to class, you had to do a couple of times a week for 7 weeks, but what kind of time did it really take on your end?
Honestly, like it didn't feel like going to class again because I was kind of worried it was going to be like me going back to school. I've been out of school like 7 years, I think, and so we had it every evening. I think on Tuesdays and stuff, but I didn't feel like it was strenuous. It didn't really interfere with my work. Like if anything, I brought skills like that I learned that week to work because it had kind of like dealt with an issue. So yeah, it was pretty easy. And then it was like really cool just to have. It was very small. Like we had 3 people in our class, so we had that really good like one-on-one time with my instructor Bernice, and then everyone in the class got along great. Like everyone helped each other out, and nobody, luckily, not that it mattered, but we weren't like competing for the same jobs like post graduation. So everyone, I think, was like a little more willing to help and like let their guard down.
Yeah, that's great. That's pretty cool. Well, again, we really wanted to hold this course up as an example of what we're doing with Unmudl, what we're trying to do. We were kind of joking, I think, in our prep session about how like, sales really is a job that a lot of people are going to need to do. It's like, when the robots take over, what will be left for the people? At least until they completely take over sales. But until then, it seems like
sell the robots.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Someone's got to sell the robots for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Julian, there was just an ask here if we could share the link
Yes.
to the course.
I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that. Erica, would you mind dropping that? Do you have it handy?
I will. Yeah.
Okay. Good. And so any other questions? Really, truly last call. The lights are flickering. Erica, do you have any other questions or comments you'd like to make to bring this on home?
No, because I can't multitask and
Oh, I'm so sorry. Debbie, Samantha, any of you?
I just think this was a very rich conversation, and I have to thank Julian and Erica, and especially Samantha and Grace for telling the stories. And I'm thrilled that we can finally embrace these skills and how they can help all of us. So to me, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I know it's a very, very busy time for you, Debbie, and I'm sure for everyone else involved, Erica, Samantha, and Grace, I know. So thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you to the audience. I'm gonna share my screen for one last moment here to quickly throw up my last little slide that I prepared for us. Although, of course, it's like I first have to share screen before I can do it. There, thank you. So for more information, visit unmudl.com, shoot me an email. If you want to learn more, talk about partnership. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of day. Take care.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.